Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from around the world. We are not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it is the power of liberation. First to the Republican and then the Socialists. Tonight's a very special New Day Black and Red. It is a solo version of New Day Black and Red. With your host, the exception one, Kevin McClinton, Professor Santa Claus, Dr. Michael Jones, will be with us this evening. He has preferred a better outing. But I hope I won't disappoint, ladies and gentlemen. This week I have been focusing on capitalism, and I'm going to finish that up this particular evening, along with a very special presentation by Dave Milner. We're going to play that in a little bit. I hope that you can enjoy this experience the way I am. I'm loving the music that I've been playing this week. Nice free stuff out there. Claudia's in the chat room. Smooches, glad to have you there. Dave's in the chat room, and I don't have my infused burger. I forgot to order it, man. Forgot to order the infused burger. And of course, Mary, my bouncer. Smooches to you. Love you. Mary's my bouncer. If you diss her, you diss me, you will be dismissed from this particular program. I want to welcome everybody in the Euro Pacific Bank Limited TECS chat room this particular evening. This is going to be real fun. A solo effort. I will be giving both the spiritual as well as constitutional viewpoints on the day at hand. Ken, the best laid plans, bro. Yeah, I know. I had planned it perfectly. I was going to eat. I had it all set up right here. I was going to eat the burger from Infused. It's this big, man, I'll tell you. But won't do that this particular evening. Melanie's joining us in the chat room. I want to thank Melanie for her support of Shannon Wright. And Shannon is attempting to become the third vice chair woman of the Maryland State GOP. There's a lot of hanky-panky stuff going on right now, and I want you all to pray solidly for our beloved Shannon Wright. And if I'm praying that I can get Melanie to come down and do a nomination speech for her. That's the kind of man I am. I just throw it out there. Let's see what happens. But, you know, in this particular environment, there are people that say that they want change, but they really don't. They want things to stay the same, and they want to stay in control. And she's been under great duress this particular week with a lot of arrows slung at her, and she was expecting them from the front. You know, when you go into battle, you're everyone's on the same team. You're thinking that we're going to all move forward. We're going to all go into battle, and then sometimes people are firing at you from behind. Your own folk. You know what I'm saying? And she's taking some big hits this week, especially in the past 6 hours, when people knew that she was very serious about becoming the third vice chairwoman of the Maryland State GOP. Individuals backbiting and threatening others who had endorsed her to remove their endorsement. I mean, just all kinds of stuff. And this is not a Democrat function. This is folks who say they're on your side. So you got to pray for her and strengthen her, Lord. Uh, ain't that the truth, Melanie? Isn't that the way it always is? You know what I'm saying? Uh, so, ladies and gentlemen, it's not the color of your skin that attracts you to the GOP. And I want you all to get that quick notion out of your head. And certainly, the color of your skin is going to pay a heavy price in the Democrat Party right now because blacks didn't go and vote in great majority for the Democrats, and so certain individuals like Claiborne in South Carolina. So what I'm saying to you is, ladies and gentlemen, it's not a race, it's not a gender thing. Sometimes people are just after you because they want to keep their power, and you're a threat. I'm quite certain that if my program was in the middle of the day, I would be seen as a threat to some other commentators, and they wouldn't like that. They would work night and day to try to destroy the show. It's just true. That's just the way competition is sometimes. And so I want you all to understand that uh, for those who are switching over from the DNC thinking it's going to be easier in the GOP because of the color of your skin, no, that it's not your skin color. It's not your gender they're after. Okay, it's winning and keeping the power. So you have to make certain that when you're in this, you're in it to win it. And it requires every part of who you are. Now, I've gone over, but I want to make certain that you all know what I'm about to do. I take off my hat, ladies and gentlemen, and put this thing down here. And we pledge allegiance to the United States of America. We're about to start this show off right as we talk about capitalism this particular evening. For those who are following along on live stream and Ustream, I sent my woman to bed tonight because she's tired. I've asked my woman not to listen to tonight's show. You all know, uh, Mary knows, whether it's New Day, Black and Red, or an American Conservative Exploration of the Inspired Word of God, or the Exceptional Conservative Show. My wife listens to almost every single show except for when she's not feeling well. And I appreciate her and I love her dearly for the sacrifices she makes. This is a teacher who gets up at 4:30 in the morning to get to school at 6 so that she can take care of babies from 6 until 6. So, uh, yeah, it's a good tired. Um, but she's tired. And so, listen, she's my greatest cheerleader, Mrs. Biggs. And she watches normally from Ustream and live stream, and she'll run into the office and tell me if there's something wrong with the show and things that predict. But this is my thing. As a husband, when I notice that my wife is not at her best condition, I don't want her listening to my show. I want her to go to sleep after she's read her Bible. She said her prayers. I kiss her on her forehead. I want her to go to sleep. Don't worry about a thing. God's got this show. It's going to be all right. So I'm praying right now that if I sneak into the room, my wife is not listening to this show. She is completely asleep, and everything is going to be all right. Because in truth, the only cheerleader I have in all of the world is my wife. She sees me on the down days. She sees me on the up days. She sees me on the awards, and she hears me when I'm getting my butt kicked. So the bottom line is, my wife deserves some slumber. So pray that she stays in bed and doesn't listen to tonight's show. Now, for everybody else, this is how we start tonight's show off. I know I'm running a little late, but we're going to be all right. I put my right hand over my heart and I pledge allegiance to the United States of America. For those who are watching via live stream, we got this big flag over here. And for those who are watching via Ustream, they got the little flags over here, and hopefully you can see them. And they're got the flag hat behind me tonight. I'm telling you, all set for this particular evening. Let the kids lead us in a word of prayer. Blanche.
Take the parents. Ready, begin. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Woo! So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. We're ready to get started for this particular evening, and I just want to thank everybody who's here tonight. You all don't have to be, but you chose to be here, and I really, really appreciate you with all of my heart. It's kind of different when the professor is here. For 3 years, we've been doing this show. The professor calls. I think maybe only one or two times I've done this show without the professor. So I think that's the most unsettling part of all of this. So bear with me as I do this. But after our commercial break, I want us to focus on one of the four pillars that's been attacked uh, by the leftists, not just in our country, um, but in our mystique, in our mental reservoir, wherever we are in the world. The leftists have determined that freedom and liberty are not yours by God. They can be granted you by the state, but they're not yours by God. And unfortunately, after our conversation last night with Dr. Brooks Robinson, uh, it becomes crystal clear how the left has painfully destroyed the present as well as the future for those in Black America. Uh, and I'll just say all of America, but especially Black America. When you have the unemployment rate at such a level uh, that 10% is the nominal rate for 19 to 25-year-olds, somewhere in the area of 25%, and for younger teens, over 50%. And in 1932, you have, thanks to the New Deal and Howard University, the move to take individuals out of the sciences into the social sciences in the areas of psychology and social work. And there has been a great propensity for individuals to move away from entrepreneurialism into the sphere of nonprofit social work. I I gather myself in saying this to you, but I try very hard as a counselor to help individuals go to college, hopefully at no cost. When a group of them sit down with me, 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds, and I ask them, what is it that you want to do with your life? And the first thing they say is, I want to help people. And so my response back to them is, how do you wish to help them? And I would say about 7 out of 10 times I hear, I want to do social work. I want to help them in terms of substance abuse. And I marvel at that. I understand where they're coming from in the communities that we're in, the society that we're in, the culture that we're in, the cities that we're in. I understand there are great plagues upon us, and the motif is to always seek to do that which is noble and good. And most certainly, nobility requires us to provide counseling always to individuals. It is difficult to counsel a man out of his doldrums when he wakes up every morning expecting to be unemployed. When you have studied for 12 years physics and science and biology and at the highest levels, and you do not wish to pursue either academic degrees or entrepreneurialism that will create jobs to take someone out of the doldrums or the risk that they chance might partake in, then we're good, is the counsel. And I know that that's a bit of a harsh thing to say, but I'm the kind of man that can say it. You see, we noted last night in our conversation with Dr. Brooks Robinson that the problem is our mentality is screwed up. The leftists have us enslaved to a point that we reside in futility as a people. That it doesn't matter who your God is. You can pray all day to Jesus Christ, but you know what? The white man will keep you down. It doesn't matter how many good men are out there. You don't need no man. I can do it all by myself. I can be bad all by myself. Babies are an inconvenience. I just want the sex. I don't want the reward. So we got to come up with something to get rid of the risk to our future. You see, all these things are circling around us and going around us within our culture. Needless to say, they are statistics of poverty, but they have become more of a trivia to be used at Thanksgiving dinner than they are issues that need to be resolved. And how do you resolve them? All the jobs in the world can't seem to resolve them. It doesn't help that you have pastors in the pulpit that are awry. Which strangely is the thing that needs to be counseled most about is not trying to make you feel good when you're feeling bad. In all actuality, we should be thinking about what are we thinking about that is askew? And how can we correct that? Ladies and gentlemen, when I come back from the break, I want y'all to know that I'm going to talk about some things. And quite frankly, those things will not be necessarily lauded by those on the left. But I'm going to say them anyway. Because if I don't say them, we won't heal. If we don't heal, we won't succeed. If we don't succeed, we're doomed to failure. There are certain seeds of capitalism that woefully have been taken from us by our own hands, no doubt. Intellectual property. We're going to talk about that. Private property ownership. We're going to talk about that. And private capitalization. You see, the leftists enslaved the minds of black persons to eradicate our pursuit of capitalism. But Ken, what about socialism? Doesn't socialism work? Show me the omelet, George Orwell said. You have a lot of promised eggs and no omelet. You don't put felonious software on the hardware of this nation and expect it to work well for you. Unfortunately, in our cities, inner cities, African Americans have bought hook, line, and sinker the provisos and promises of socialism and communism. And they have allowed the leftists to enslave their minds. And when guys like me come out and tell you that you are enslaved, you tell me that I'm an Uncle Tom. Tonight, the whys. Why have the leftists enslaved the minds of black persons? To eradicate our pursuit of capitalism? Slavery's not dead, people. It's just called something else. We'll be right back with more of the best in urban conservative talk. Tonight, it's New Day Black and Red with tonight your host, Ken McClinton.
The best late night conservative talk show in America, TECS Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best late night conservative talk, TECS Radio. The best late night conservative talk show in America. In America.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.
Have you heard the news? There's more to Prime than free. 2-day shipping on shoes. There are tons of movies ready to stream. It's like living in a film lover's dream. More to Prime. More to Prime.
I want to join. How much should I pay?
You can sign up for a free trial today. So let's say it one more time. There's more to Prime.
Now, Brownells, we know you may have only one shot to harvest that trophy, so we have thousands of accessories and replacement parts to improve your chances. We know how much you love to shoot, so our Gunsmiths articles and videos will help you do more and get more out of your guns. We also value your hard work and money. That's why only Brownells backs up everything we sell with a 100% unconditional lifetime guarantee. Brownells, the world's largest supplier of firearm accessories and gunsmithing tools.
Hey, it's Jersey Joe from the Reaver, Common Sense. You can catch me every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on shrmedia.com. That's every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, shrmedia.com.
Meet Jason. He was really excited to start growing.
From the war front to the streets of our nation's capital. Men of faith. Dr. Michael Jones, the underground professor, and Kenneth McClinton, the exceptional conservative, bring both constitutional gravitas and spiritual perspective on today's issues to the most influential Christian urban talk show. It's a new day on New Day, Black and Red.
Thank you, Dave. Dave Milner, the unpleasant blind guy. We love him so dearly. I want to give you all a fresh start on something.
We can only begin to imagine the sheer horror of the slave trade. But what if we could place an actual ancestor within that story? We were able to do just that for one of Tom Joyner's ancestors, his third great-grandfather, Tony Dumas. Can you read where it lists Tony Dumas' birthplace? In the far right. Place of birth, Africa. Africa. Your great-great-great-grandfather, Tony Dumas, was born in Africa around 1790. We tracked down a direct male descendant of Tony's, a distant cousin of yours, and we asked him to take a DNA test to see where Tony was born. So if we found a match, that's where the brother came from. Would you mind turning the page of the scrapbook? This could mean your great-great-great-grandfather was a member of the Balanta people from the country of Guinea-Bissau.
On the coast.
On the coast. And it's an exact match. Yeah.
How do you think he was captured?
Probably through a war. You know, there were African middlemen, and they would fight wars with other Africans to enslave them to sell to the white man. Slavery was a huge business for different African kingdoms. You know the story that we got when we were kids, that your ancestor was out on one Sunday with his girlfriend and some white man jumps out of the bush and throws a net over? It's not how it happened. Slavery was big business. Africans sold other Africans to the Europeans.
So after he was snatched from Africa, came over on a slave ship, on that long boat ride.
From hell.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to peer into history in a manner that you are not often graced with. You see, it's easier for me to be angry with white men here in America because the leftists have taught me to be angry with the white man. You see, there is no doggone way that we could have made it from Africa at the hands of fellow Africans except by the wickedness of whites and Jews. Now, I don't know if you have been taught that in your public school system, but I'm certainly knowledgeable of the fact that my nieces and nephews have. The simple matter is that even if you had a DNA test done, it cannot tell you what country you came from. It really can't. It may give you some idea of the maternity linkage that you have, but it won't tell you from what nation. But what it does tell you historically matters more than the DNA. You see, leftists have told us through Roots and other movies that it was the white man who decided to prey upon the African continent, taking blacks off of their precious land, putting them on ships and sending them to the Caribbean to later be sent to America. And there was no hand by the black man in that. Why are you talking about slavery, Ken, when you said you were going to talk about capitalism? Because I must tell you why our mentality has been enslaved. You see, even worse is the truth that Arabians and Mohammedans preyed upon the African continent, enslaving whites from Europe, bringing them into northern Africa, and enslaving blacks and sending them from Western Africa into Europe and then into the Caribbean and then into the US. And as well, slaves being taken to other places in the East. We talked with a great doctor on our program. Dr. Bill, of course, is that great doctor. And he made it poignantly clear that the slave trade is still going on in our country. It has, well, not in our country, but in the continent of Africa. Still going on. It has not stopped, and it won't stop. Dr. Bill Warner of Political Islam made that poignantly clear to us. So, for the time that we were brought to this nation, we have been told that we are second class citizens, even though the Constitution clearly states that we're not. There are those who run around America telling us that the greatest fear amongst black people is that this country would get rid of the 1964 Voting Rights Act, which I hope they do. Because clearly, under the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, you do have the right to vote. What the Voting Rights Act of 1964 did was to capitulatively enslave South United States, Southern United States, in a period of perpetual Jim Crow. No matter how redeemed we become, those states in the South pay a heavy price for the Democrat Jim Crow. But Ken, what does this have to do with capitalism, Ken? What? It has everything to do with it. It has everything to do with it because we were brought here, in some cases, as slaves, but many of the first persons that came here were free men. If our mindset is told from the very beginning that we are second-class citizens and have always been slaves, then our mindset has been altered by those on the left to tell us that the principles of Christ, the principles of capitalism, the principles of conservatism, the principles of constitutionalism do not apply to us. And why is that rudimentarily important? It's important to say that no matter what happens to a certain group of people, they will never be made a part of. So dire the need to be radical and to bring the sword against the neck of the enslaver in this country that we're willing to try communism and socialism because we hate capitalism, because it was capitalism that made us slaves. And the truth of the matter is what I've just explained to you, and even Tom Joyner realized, is that the aberration took place many years ago, many centuries ago, with people of our own hands. How can I hate people of my own hands? Because that means I would have to hate myself. I can't hate myself, so I have to hate someone. Because I'm told over and over in the school system that I can't achieve at the level and the rate of the Asian students, so I must be graded at a 50% curve as in Virginia, while the Asian students at 100, the white student at 90, and the Hispanic student at 70. I'm told that I need affirmative action in order to meritoriously succeed. I'm told politically that there's only one group of people that will ever care for us, and they right now are persecuting Clyburn because not all the black people voted. Yes, Dave, a 50% curve in Virginia, the Commonwealth, for black students. 9% of black students that graduate in the District of Columbia graduate from high school and then graduate from college in 4 years. Just 9%. And we are told that our deficiencies in education and entrepreneurialism are the result of the white man. By the way, the last time I looked, they told me that DC was the chocolate city. We're quickly moving from chocolate to almond to vanilla. If you're educated, or at least miseducated, you can't take back necessarily that which you have been taught. It becomes indwelled in your heart, in your mind, in your soul, in your spirit. Unless you are provoked by your parents and then by those that love you to challenge that which has been taught you, then you shall only receive that, and then you will know that anything that's spoken about regarding intellectual property, private property ownership, and private capitalization don't apply to you. Why? Can I take a little history lesson here? You all don't mind if I do a little history lesson for you. And if you do, forgive me. But for a lot of people, they've never heard those words as they were spoken to Tom Joyner. That it wasn't the white man that enslaved you, it was the black man that sold you for a bill of goods. And even worse, when you look at the source of that black man, he was a Mohammedan seeking to conquest in accord with pleasing Allah. So how does that apply to what we're talking about? Well, let's take a look at the concept, the whole concept, in a sense, as best that we can in this short frame of mind, in terms of what capitalism really is. You see, we've been told that capitalism is evil. Capitalism is someone trying to take something from you and give it to the rich man so that you can stay poor and subservient. Can we go through certain explanations of what these three issues are: capitalism, socialism, communism? Let's start with communism, because we just had Fidel Castro pass away, and apparently the liberals are crying more about Fidel Castro passing away than Hillary Rodham Clinton losing her presidential election, and that tells you something. Communism refers to community ownership of property with the end goal being complete social equality regarding equal economy or economic equality. The whole idea about the People's Republic of China is that in a utopic state, we all collectively work together, and as we collectively work together, we do it for the common good. Communism. It's amazing that there aren't too many people who are wealthy in communist nations unless they are the elite. Yet there are very many people that suffer at the hands of the communist elite. They are called the proletariat, of course, that have done unjustly against the bourgeoisie. Well, forgive me, the bourgeoisie who have done evil against the proletariat, and the bourgeoisie must suffer the consequences. Their plants become the plants of the state for the good of the state. You see, everyone will do well. And their ideas, their intellectual capital are no longer theirs. It belongs to the state. Control of population becomes a part of the existence of mankind. Everything for the state. So Ken, then I mean, I've never heard people say that they were having a tough time in a communist nation. Well, then again, why would you? Why would you hear anything from them? When the free market, the free press, all belong to the state. You're not going to hear anything. Certainly not a complaint. With socialism, socialism refers to state ownership of common property or state ownership of the means of production. Once you have socialism in place, my God, communism is right around the corner. So one person explained it this way: communism is by the gun, socialism is by the electorate, the vote. You can vote yourself into depravity, or a gun can be placed to your head and you will accept it. Either way, you're doomed to eternal poverty. Poverty of mind, poverty of spirit, poverty of soul. So Ken, I've heard so many bad things about capitalism, but capitalism couldn't be any better. Well, actually, it is. In fact, capitalism is based on free market, meaning free men, free thought, freedom. And those free men pursue, at whatever cost that they can afford, their own success. Capitalism is an economic system in which all or most of the means of production are privately owned and operated. And the investment of capital in the production, distribution, and prices of commodity, goods, and services are determined mainly in a free market rather than by the state. The problem with TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, is that it is a partnership for crony capitalism, meaning that the government intervenes, creating bubbles, taking away freedoms and liberties, and obstructing profiteering. Ooh, I said a dirty word, profiteering. Well, how is it that someone's able to create jobs except they create profit? How is it that they're able to create innovation except that they're able to invest in it? How is it that they're able to afford to pay someone $15 an hour to press a button with a Big Mac sign on it? Unless there was profit. The problem with profit is that morality has been affixed by the leftists. Not God, but the leftists. And the leftists will tell you that profit is evil. And I wish the good people from Red Nation Rising could stay on board for the next hour and 10 minutes so that we can go through all of this, the spiritual as well as the constitutional viewpoint regarding capitalism in our nation. But we love you. We thank you. And for those who will be listening at 2 a.m. on the Liberty Channel, thank you. We love you, Red Nation Rising. For all others who are on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Media, we love you. Thank you for carrying us live. You can also listen to this show via Ustream and Livestream and YouTube, and you can catch those in the after hours. Dave Milner says, tell them to go to SHR. Yeah, go to SHR. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, when we come back, I want you all to understand firmly why I am fighting this good fight in 2017. Our children have been lied, their minds have been raped, and their hearts have been pillaged. They actually believe there is no hope but Gov. Not God, Gov. Woe is the man whose faith is in princes. We'll be right back with more of the best on New Day, Black and Red.
Now, Brownells, we know you may have only one shot to harvest that trophy, so we have thousands of accessories and replacement parts to improve your chances. We know how much you love to shoot, so our gunsmiths articles and videos will help you do more and get more out of your guns. We also value your hard work and money. That's why only Brownells backs up everything we sell with a 100% unconditional lifetime guarantee. Brownells, the world's largest supplier of firearm accessories and gunsmithing tools.
With home values up and interest rates near all-time lows, you probably know that now is a great time to refinance, like the Johnsons, who saved $436 a month.
$436 a month?
It's simple. Just go to LendingTree.com, compare loan offers for free, and see how much you could save in just 5 minutes.
I thought you said the bank gave you the best rate.
Yeah.
LendingTree. When banks compete, you win.
I have to do everything myself.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
Meet Jason. He was really excited to start growing his business with social media until he realized how complex and time-consuming social media can be. It's difficult to manage multiple social networks and accounts. It's hard to monitor what's happening on social media, follow discussions, and engage with new followers. It's time-consuming to publish updates throughout the day, track and analyze how effective posts are, respond to fans and followers in a timely manner, and gain new customers. The list seems to go on and on. Jason quickly becomes discouraged. How could he ever do all of this and still run a business? He was ready to give up on social media until he found eClincher, the easiest way to manage social media. Jason was amazed how straightforward and simple it is to use eClincher. With eClincher, Jason is now able to leverage the power of social media without having to dedicate several hours a day. He can easily organize all his social media accounts in one place, efficiently plan and schedule his posts ahead of time, engage with his followers, understand the effectiveness of his efforts with powerful analytics, find new customers, and much more. In order to tell your business's story, simplify the process of managing your social media, and analyze results, sign up with eClincher today.
Well, welcome to Freedom Fest 2015. I think this is the best Freedom Fest we've ever put together.
Freedom Fest is truly international. There's people from all over the world that come to Freedom Fest, not just to talk, but also to participate in dialogue, participate in the panels, to participate in the audience.
So hold your breath, lock your seatbelts. I hope you're at your Wheaties today.
We are enslaved by government mandates. What light bulb you can buy, what car you can drive, how you heat and cool your home, to what health insurance.
Europe actually has allowed itself to be held hostage of this entire Greek situation.
They have the courage to do debates. We have debates on foreign policy, on taxes, on what's going on in the world, on how to invest and how to run your own life.
He used an example of restaurants. Don't open a restaurant because it's so competitive you'll never make any money. Really? I mean, been to Chipotle lately? How many believe that Peter Thiel won the argument competition is overrated in America? And how many favor John Mackey's response?
So
here's the moment many of you have been waiting for, myself included, and I think it's the reason why this room is completely packed all the way to the back as far as I can see.
I think I worked about 8 years to put together this debate.
I have to say, it's really kind of depressing to see people holding up the Reagan story, which is so obviously different if you pay any attention to the story, as that's the best argument? Really? That's the best argument?
And the middle class and the poor, the people you say you care most about, are the people who've been hurt the most by these policies because they've had no income growth at all.
Thank you. They already left 2 waters for me. I'll probably only need 1. So I appreciate it.
But in America today, higher education is controlled by a cartel. And they say, oh, let's take out a loan and pay for this. And no one bothers to tell them that the market for Greek philosophers has been tight for 2,000 years.
So in terms of its 2 major policy objectives, stable prices and a stable economy, the Fed has clearly failed.
And if the Federal Reserve actually did the right thing, the market would crash.
Every country in the world has a lower corporate tax rate than us. Can we fix that?
This, in my view, is the premier libertarian event in the country.
You probably meet the largest cross-section of philosophically based groups of any conference anywhere in the world.
Some of the smartest people in our country come together here to discuss the ideas, the challenges. This is an engaged group of individuals.
This is all about the mind. It's not about how fancy you are.
Feisty discussions, interesting people to meet.
I love it. This is my first time doing anything like this. You're not going to be the last.
It's the only place you get this many people who agree with me. Nobody, I live in New York. Nobody agrees with me.
You know, war is not the health of the state. War is the death of liberty and freedom. And that's a mentality that is particularly strong in the Republican Party, but it's also strong in the Democratic Party.
I want government to be this small. I want the individual to be this big.
We are people when we are at our greatest that we lead by example. We don't jam it down anybody's throat. We don't force them to live our way. We don't nation build.
Very interesting. There's a lot of variety of stuff. It's really
Hear ye, hear ye. Freedom Fest Court is now in session.
We are gathered here in this great sovereign state of Nevada to decide the fate of the country's central bank, the Federal Reserve.
Please place your hand on this edition of Forbes 400 Richest.
There was a bubble in many markets, and that is simply mathematically impossible without the Fed creating the money to make it happen.
The Fed is guilty, 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 guilty. Court is now adjourned. God bless America, and may you always ride on the eagle of freedom. Hallelujah, and good night.
I'm Joanne Skousen. I'm the founding director of the Anthem Film Festival. And we are in our 5th year. We started in a little room on the 26th floor at Bally's, and now we've grown to huge numbers. In fact, we have a fabulous lineup of shorts.
A police officer can wear a body camera, but you as a citizen may not have access to that footage.
Live from Las Vegas.
We recognize that Freedom Fest is a big tent.
Well, I happen to like Rand Paul. I really do. By the way, in some cases, they'll build a new hospital for $1.5 billion. You could build 7 hospitals, 10 hospitals for that if you knew what you were doing.
We had almost 300 speakers.
Without a doubt, our most successful Freedom Fest ever.
And I just adore the experience. It's like a saturation of the senses, a saturation of the mind. I learned so much. I come home with way too many books. I adore Freedom Fest. I'm definitely coming back again next year.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to go ahead and get your place at the Jockey Club. I'm sorry. Don't say the Jockey Club, because I haven't got my place yet, and I want the biggest room at the Jockey Club. I want the biggest suite with the great master bedroom, the great big living room and kitchen. So I'm working on that in January, getting that secured and travel and everything else. But July 19th through the 22nd at the Paris Resort, Las Vegas, we will be celebrating the 10th anniversary of Freedom Fest. And it will be like none other you have ever experienced. William Shatner will be the featured speaker for this particular year. Already Steve Forbes, and you all remember the interview that we had with Steve Forbes last summer with SHR Media. John Mackey will be there, Jennifer Grossman, Nikki Gillespie will be there, and so many others. And quite frankly, it is like none other. It really is. There is CPAC, pardon me, doesn't even come close. So if you have the opportunity, register for Freedom Fest. Do it now at the discounted prices. You can easily go to freedomfest.com, freedomfest.com. You can go there, and if you wish to be a speaker, please get in contact with Valerie Durham. Listen, this thing fills up so quickly. They already have the keynote speaker, so you know this thing fills up so very quickly, and there are a ton of great speakers, a ton of great presentations, and most importantly, SHR will be there, the #1 media network at this particular event. Bigger and better than Breitbart and The Blaze put together. I'm just saying, we're that good. So please make your way out there this particular year. Ken, will you stay at the Paris? Mary, I'm not staying at the Paris. I am staying at the Jockey Club. You know, Mary, I love the Jockey Club with all of my heart and soul. Oh, just to be able to get away from everyone else and still be on the strip, can't beat it. Can't beat it. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be picking up in the second hour. Welcome to New Day Black and Red. And everything that I had planned to talk about in this second hour, I will forego because I have been asked to call the professor. I've been axed, A-X-E-D, to call the professor because the professor was holding out for more pay for his Cowboys, apparently, and has decided he wants to come on the program. And so that is good. And I returned back to my peon self for New Day Black and Red. I really wanted to get into intellectual property, private property ownership, and private capitalization, but we'll do that for another time on the Exceptional Conservative Show. While I'm in the process of calling the professor, I just want you all to know who's going to be on our program Monday and Tuesday. Monday night, we will have on the program none other than the mayor of Coral Gables, Florida. He is a former ambassador to Paraguay and has been a foreign minister to many countries in Latin America. And he is also one of the leaders of the Center for a Free Cuba. Yes, the Honorable James C. Kaysen, Mayor of Coral Gables, Florida, will be with us on Monday night, 9:05 p.m. The real life and times of Fidel Castro. He's going to be truthful and honest with you because the liberal media doesn't want to be. And we're going to talk about the hopes and aspirations of a liberated Cuba in the Caribbean. And as well, on Tuesday at 9:05 p.m., Maureen Kala Walubi of the Uganda Conservatives will be on the air with us, and we will be talking about the conservative movement in Uganda and hopes and aspirations for the people of Uganda. So big week next week. So join us. Make yourself a part of and tell everybody, all those other people want to go to Fox. The real conservatives come to my show. I'm just saying. Dr. Michael Jones. Let me see. Dr. Jones, paging Dr. Jones. There we go. Okay. Paging Dr. Jones.
Redskins Therapy Clinic.
The Redskins Therapy Clinic. Oh, thank you. Thank you for taking my call.
Don't say your name. We know who you are. You call frequently. Every Sunday, if I'm not mistaken.
I want you to know that we have a very, very good record. 6-4-1, I think. Something like that. So
yeah, how did you manage to tie somebody? What is this, soccer? You get a participation trophy?
We each got a goal.
Redskin fan?
Did you hear us say, go?
I kick you the touchdown. I kick you the touchdown.
We are talking tonight with we are talking with none other than Dr. Michael Jones, the underground professor, undergroundprofessor.us. The number one question tonight, Professor, is how the tree lighting went. That's the number one question.
It's lit. It is lit.
There you go.
Yes. I came in on a fire truck, and there were tons of people there. Must have been about 300 people. And then there was, but at the same time, as I was coming in, there was a dancing thing. They had a whole bunch of ballerinas and dance school putting on a Christmas pageant and singers singing at the tree lighting. And then I came rolling in on a fire truck, and it was a lot of fun. And then Megan and the girls showed up, all wearing Santa hats. Megan had on a Santa cape, hooded cape, and gloves and stuff. So they kind of looked like they belonged to me, which was cool.
Oh.
Yeah. So it went really well. A lot of people. I just stopped by Taco Hell and got me some nachos, and then I went to Taco Casa and got me some tacos. So I'm ready for the Cowboy game as soon as I get in there, start eating.
Oh, the Cowboys are playing tonight?
Yeah, again on Thursday. Can you believe it?
Wow. They were so good last week, they wanted them back again.
I guess. It's, yeah. They don't get any time off like everybody else does. When you're 10 and, 1. So what? 10 and 1. So what? What did you say you guys were again?
6, 4, and 1. But don't worry. Don't worry. You will see us in the playoffs. You will see us in the playoffs.
1?
Yeah, 6, 4, and 1. You will see us in the playoffs.
6, 4, and 1.
6, 4, and 1. But you know the funny.
You add all that up, and that's our score.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead, no, please. Don't interrupt me. Go ahead.
No. I understand why you would interrupt. I understand the excitement, the glee. It's been.
Are you kidding me? This is the first time since Troy Aikman threw the ball that I can do this. So
I know.
I didn't think I was going to live long enough to do this again.
But let's just see if a Dallas quarterback can actually get past the first round. That's the key.
First hit.
Exactly.
We have a problem getting past the first hit, let alone the first round. So yeah.
Yeah. So
I think that can do it.
Yeah. This is December. Normally in December, a Dallas quarterback defies logic and loses every single game, which won't be so bad. 10 and 5 wouldn't be so bad. But
10 and 5 would be good.
Yeah. Still be.
If we lost every game, I guess that's what we would be now.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Someone had to say it.
Someone had to.
What are y'all talking about tonight?
Tonight.
I couldn't do the audio because I don't have enough battery power on my phone.
Oh.
Yeah, it's been worn out today.
Never mind. I won't go there with my joke.
Yes, I leave it on vibrate.
We're talking about how leftists have enslaved the minds of black persons to eradicate our pursuit of capitalism, looking at intellectual property, private property ownership, and private capitalization. And tonight was the wise. In the first hour of the program, you left your peon in chief here to surmise.
Well, I have been saying call me for a half an hour, so it's not like,
I didn't see you say call. I didn't see you say.
I sent you a text message. I sent Ag a text message. I sent Mary a Twitter and Ag a Twitter and Bloviating Zeppelin a Twitter. And then I finally managed to get logged into the internet and got and left messages in your chat room, which finally everybody kept saying call the professor. You did. But no, my feelings aren't hurt. Oh, Professor, I can't do this without you. Professor, you got to do this.
I was talking in the first hour.
Speaking of black capitalists, did you hear that a TECS going to be the Santa of the malls of America. And
No.
he's black.
No,
He's the first black Santa. And when they interviewed him and said, what do you think about, everybody down. What do you think about being a black Santa for the Mall of America? And he responded, I'm Santa. Santa comes in all colors. Who cares?
That's right.
I thought this guy is a Texan. I love him. So, yeah.
Well,
He had it right.
well, congratulations to him. And he has probably a greater affinity for the law there in Minnesota and helping them actually identify Somalians that are not necessarily
who are not on the Christmas list this year. They're on the naughty list.
they're on the naughty list. There you go.
I'm gonna get them all little miniature bomb vests with coal in it.
Professor.
Okay. Yes, sir. Talk to me.
Thank you, sir, for making time available to us on the New Day Black and Red, home of the Washington Redskins.
Say what? Did you hear that they now that your owner guy has passed away, they're actually going to change the name?
From what?
The Redskins. They're no longer, because it's offensive to people, so they're getting rid of the word Washington.
Yeah, big time.
Just going to call you all the Redskins now.
It'll be much improved. Much improved. We were talking about in the first hour about the fact that Mohammedans and black warlords sold black into slavery and as well took Europeans into slavery in Northern Africa.
Oh, goodness. They even captured white people if white people tried to get slaves on their own.
Yeah.
Because the whites thought, well, we'll get rid of these Muslims. And so they thought, we'll just get our own slaves. And then found out that didn't work so good because either the Africans killed us or the Muslims did. Because they, it's their property. But not only did the Muslims sell blacks into slavery, this is interesting. If a king had too many sons and not enough land to distribute amongst them, he would sell his own kids into slavery, or women if he had too many daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And would trade them for blankets and rum and junk like that. So this wasn't just a heinous white Democrat crime on blacks the whole time. It was everybody had their share in it.
Exactly. But the leftists have taken the caveat of saying that we are not subject as black people to the Constitution, to conservatism, to capitalism, and certainly not to Christ, because all of those particular.
I agree with that. I am going to agree with that.
And
black people do not have to be beholden to the Constitution. They can do what any white person does who doesn't want to be beholden to it, and that's leave. But if you stay, then you're saying, legally, you were saying, I accept the social compact of America.
Mm-hmm.
And I will abide by the Constitution. You don't have to love it, but you're agreeing that will be your governing set of rules. And that you will participate in the American government in that fashion.
Exactly. And so in this particular caveat, the bottom line is that black people have been told that they're second-class citizens, that they are not part of the constitutional system in this country. And at all times, it has been the Democrats or the leftists who have done that thing to the point of negatively impacting black families, black entrepreneurs. In fact, eliminating entrepreneurialism at all in our community or in our society or culture. So literally, the leftists have taken away the greatest privileges of intellectual property, private property ownership, and private capitalization simply because of Jim Crow and all the other aspects of enslavement. They have enslaved the minds of black people who don't mind marching in the rain, 10,000 strong in Chicago, to shut down shopping on Main Street but certainly are not going to march through South Side when a child 9 years old is assassinated.
Well, right. Or a woman is used as a human shield at a bus stop in Washington, D.C.
Exactly.
Or if it's black on black crime.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to remember this, Ken, and this will probably get both of us in a little trouble, but it's your show, so direct your letters to Ken McClellan. But, the Democrats have always thought of blacks as property.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to capitalism, why would property own property? That's like your chair buying another chair or a couch or a pillow.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Democrats, and they control the educational system. They control, for the most part, for the last 150 years, the political system. They have raised the black community into believing that their property still, i.e. with welfare and whatnot. And so why would you participate? Because to participate is to elevate yourself out of poverty. And if you elevate yourself out of poverty, you don't need the freaking Democrat Party to give you everything. Mm-hmm. And so that is scary to both Democrats and people that may be responsible for themselves. And so you can see why they have opted out of being a participating in capitalism. And by default, if you can teach people that they're not part of the system, then it's a lot easier to fool.
Yeah, and a coveted part of all of that is to create a permanent underclass, to create a permanent group of people that are addicted to your salvation. No matter what you do, even though you don't care and don't show and don't share, it doesn't matter. That person cares more about me than any Republican, any conservative, any constitution. None of that stuff applies. They understand that I don't fit in this society, and thus they will do everything they can to babysit me until such time as either I leave this earth or find another way to get back home to Africa. And that ain't happening.
You notice that salvation's collective thing.
Yes.
Because if they can convince you that you guys all have to hang together no matter what, politically, then you can't be saved. And that's well, I tell you what, the devil was trying to find a way to destroy an entire race of people. I can't think of a better way.
Exactly.
And this is why you have 95% black vote for Republicans, Democrats every year.
Yeah.
Election time until this year, which was remarkable.
Exactly.
Very little of it in the media is not really harping on this miracle. Of how many people stayed home and how many people voted Republican that were black.
Exactly.
So you're not a lot. Thanksgiving and Christmas should be a lot easier for you now.
Now, I want to explain something to people who are following along at home on the down low to New Day Black and Red, live now from Fort Worth, Texas, as well as Washington, D.C., in simulcast, because the professor decided to steal away from Mrs. Claus for a few moments.
Ow. Boy, you should have seen her. She is so beautiful. It hurts to look at.
I know she is. I know she is.
I am so lucky.
Yes, you are. She's a babe.
I'm gonna take her to Freedom Fest, by the way, if it's possible. We're trying to figure out how to do it, but we're gonna bring her to Freedom Fest. I
believe that, and I'm gonna have the police there at the airport to arrest you on kidnapping charges.
I'll make sure that we're never alone with the sackheads. Ever. I'm always going to be next to her somewhere.
Smart man. I want to go over two people real quick because a lot of people don't know the real history behind slavery in the United States of America.
Hey, before you do that, because my phone's dying, and I don't want to. If I lose you, I don't want to not be able to say this. Okay. I typed it in your chat room, but yesterday or the day before, I found it yesterday, but maybe it was the day before. Glenn Beck went on his radio show and started talking about the history of Santa Claus. And he claimed that the reason Santa Claus got his name was because St. Nicholas had 3 kids that were supposed to come visit him for a prayer. And when they didn't show up, he started taking a walk towards where they were coming from. And at the halfway point found an inn where the innkeeper, who was unscrupulous, had kidnapped these 3 kids, chopped them up into little bits, and put them into the pot pies. And that Santa reassembled them, forgave the innkeeper, and everybody went on their happy way. Have you ever heard that?
Never. Never.
It just pisses me off. I'm telling you, that is, Glenn Beck has done a lot of things that annoy me, but he's never made me mad. I don't know where that is coming from history. You can go on the internet and find anything. People write up stories about Krampus and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if he's confusing Krampus and the horror stories that they used to use Krampus for, Santa's evil twin, and applying them to St. Nicholas. But I tell you, this just really made me mad.
Well,
because all the kids out there that are hearing this stuff, what are they thinking?
Does anyone still listen to Glenn Beck? I think he got like 4 listeners now.
Yeah, I don't. If it hadn't been that I saw a transcript of it, and I was like, what? He's gotta be kidding.
But I think everyone has given up on Glenn Beck since he recovered from his liberalism and went anti-classical liberalism. That he has returned to the left, and they have found him and they appreciate him.
He's gone back to the time like he was when he was drunk on the air all the time. You know? And he was calling up grocery stores and making fun of Indians that were running slurping machines in grocery stores.
Yeah.
Or, convenience stores. I don't know if anybody here remembers that or not, but I heard him do that. I used to hear that show, and it angered me to no end. And then when I heard Glenn Beck had his reformation, and he changed and everything, what the world is going on with this guy now? His hatred for Trump is well, I don't know. Everything about him just is creeping me. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's bad enough he plagiarized me without crediting me, but that's minor compared to the junk he's doing and saying now.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I didn't mean to derail your show on this. I
No.
wanted to get that out there and
No, that's
get it off my chest because considering I did all the Santa work tonight, that has just been in the back of my head all morning.
at a time in our country when we need people to have hope. And listen, not
change.
Yeah, well, we got the change already. The hope's got to come. Got the change.
Now we're hoping the electoral college will do its job.
Exactly, and we're hoping that that Obama will move from Washington D.C. to Chicago. Good hope.
I think he actually will. I don't think there's a problem with that. I think he wants to go. I don't think he likes the job of president. I think he's looking forward to running the UN or selling. There's a rumor going around. A friend of mine, my contact that's still in the administration, has said to me that there is the scuttlebutt of the administration going out is that Obama wants to write travel books and be a travel log. So who knows?
Actually, he should just listen to Hillary. She's been to what? 188 countries? I mean, come on.
Like we said, Obama has been to 57 states. He's got 3 more to go, and then you can probably write a book about it.
There you go. And Cuba is one of them.
Cuba.
We're talking tonight about the fact that leftists have destroyed the ideals of capitalism in urban America, and it was done purposely to create a permanent underclass. And one of the contingencies that I'm refuting here is, first and foremost, the idealism that slavery started in the U.S., and that's the only place that it flourished outside of Great Britain. The truth of the matter is that slavery still exists in Northern Africa and in Arabian nations. as well, the Spanish, the Portuguese, and as well as other European nations actually practice slavery in the colonies or in the colonial provinces of Latin America. So the bottom line is, well before there was a United States of America, slavery existed. And in fact, on the spiritual part of this tonight, we're going to go back to Genesis, and I'm going to show you where politics was used to create a slave nation in Egypt. So the bottom line is, whether it be the indentured servants who came here from Great Britain, who signed a contract that they would have masters over them for 4 to 7 years, and they were treated just as harshly as the black slaves were treated, and the Native American slaves were treated, or the Native Americans that owned black slaves, or the blacks that owned black slaves, or so however way you wish to put it.
Well, sort of. I mean, you got to do the math, though, Ken.
Mm-hmm.
They were treated like slaves while they were indentured, but they were treated better than slaves because most of them were white and slaves weren't. But the difference here is that a slave could cost a couple $1,000.
Yeah.
And an indentured servant earned 50 cents a day, which was a lot of money. But they had to pay for room and board and keep, and so that really, it took them a long time to pay off, which is why they had, 4 to 7 year indentureships. But you go out and you go to where we had all the rice fields, and we were growing rice. Well, rice fields breed malaria. Mm-hmm. And if you had a farm that was raising rice, and you had $2,000 slave or some white guy that you're paying 50 cents a day for, who do you think you sent into the rice fields? so while we got treated a little better, we were also dying faster because they were the ones, and that's why they got 50 cents a day. When a typical person only made $20 a year, 50 cents a day was a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So you took a great risk of not making it very. And so the risk was, you'd make, your family would be taken care of if you didn't live. If not, then you survived your indentureship. But it was the white indentured people that were going there to work the malaria fields and the rice rolls, mm-hmm. and not slaves. So it wasn't all rosy either, I guess is what I'm saying.
No, it wasn't. And many of them were convicts that came from Britain, just looking to get the heck out of the British kingdom. Right. For a chance
there was a Scottish invasion, an Irish invasion, mm-hmm. when the tater famine happened.
Exactly.
And, and then there's Europe itself kept moving over to America for the promise of freedom and liberty, and religious freedoms and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So there was a constant influx all the way up till, when was that? The turn of the century in the 1900s, you could see signs in there about how Irish did not apply, all the way till Kennedy was running for president, and there was a big concern that a Catholic becoming a president, and he might be beholden to the Pope. So we've had those biases for a long time.
Exactly.
So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Yeah, and one of the things that I want to broach before we get into the ideals of intellectual property as well, we'll probably only have enough time to do the intellectual property portion of it, but this was what Thomas Jefferson originally wrote. Now, Thomas Jefferson was one of the anti-federalists and Bill of Rights kind of guys. He didn't trust the government. Well, he shouldn't.
But remember, he wasn't here. He was over in France at the
time. Yeah, but his tendencies were towards the anti-federalists.
Right.
And again,
right. He was for limited government.
Very.
And for laissez-faire capitalism. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I call myself a Jeffersonian radical.
Exactly. He wrote this in the draft of the Declaration of Independence in reference to King George. He has waged cruel war against human nature itself, violating its most sacred rights of life and liberty in the persons of a distant people who never offended him captivating and carrying them into slavery in another hemisphere, or to incur miserable death in their transportation thither. This piratical warfare, the opprobrium of infidel powers, again, Mohammedanism uh, is the warfare of the Christian king of Great Britain, determined to keep open a market where men should be bought and sold. He has prostituted his negative for suppressing every legislative attempt to prohibit or to restrain this execrable commerce, and that this assemblage of horrors might want no fact of distinguished dye. He is now exciting those very people to rise in arms among us and to purchase that liberty of which he has deprived them, and murdering the people upon whom he also obtruded them, thus paying off former crimes committed against the liberties of one people with crimes which he urges them to commit against the lives of another. Thomas Jefferson was writing that, quite frankly, it was the Mohammedans that arrested these black men, sent them and the women and children over here, and it was Britain who made them slaves, and we will want to free them. That was the intent of the Declaration of Independence. Unfortunately, sometimes when you run on something that you say, like building a wall, when you finally get into office, it doesn't happen. And so one of the problems was that there during the Declaration Congress, there was an agreement between men not to dilly-dally with the South over, as well as the North, over the issues of slavery. Let it be. And then we'll pick it up when we have another constitutional Congress. Am I right on that?
Yeah. They were afraid that they couldn't, well, in order to fight for freedom and liberty, it required unanimous consent. They weren't going to force any of the colonies to, be forced into it. So either everybody agreed or they weren't going to do it. And when slavery became a burden for the South, because they were like, wait a minute, we've got all this investment in slaves, and it was legal, and yeah, we get what you're saying, but we can't afford it. And there was no one had the money to say, okay, well, we'll pay off all these slaves and give you the money for them. If they did, imagine what the world would be like today. But the economy was not able to do that at the time. And so the decision was made, either we scrap this and we don't try to fight for our freedom, or we fight for freedom, but we acknowledge the slavery issue and we kick the can down the road. And so they kicked the can. The brilliant thing was that when they did the Constitution, which was the can down the road, they designed it specifically so that it would end slavery all on its own. And had we adhered to it and not violated the Constitution, that would have worked too.
Exactly. We're talking tonight with Dr. Michael Jones, the Underground Professor, undergroundprofessor.us. I'm Kim McClinton, the Exceptional One from the exceptionalconservativeshow.com. You're listening to New Day Black and Red live from Fort Worth, Dallas, Texas, and Washington, D.C. in simulcast. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8 of the United States Constitution is known as the Copyright Clause, and this is how it goes. To promote the progress in science of useful arts, by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. This was one of the biggest concerns during the Constitutional Congress, because you had one group, the Jeffersonian radicals, that didn't want monopolies of individual of access to inventions and things of that nature, while you had the Madison Federalists who were saying, in order for us to stir an economy, we have to provoke men to the sciences and provoke innovation and provoke invention. And thus, as a reward for them pushing this nation ahead, we have to protect them and make sure they get a little something out of the deal. Your thoughts in terms of those founding fathers' principles regarding intellectual property?
People look at the copyright clause and stuff, and they tend to gloss over it, thinking, it's boring. Yeah, copyright, whatever. You and I have copyrights on our programming and trademarks.
Yeah.
Let me suggest to you that may be the most important part of the Constitution.
There you go.
And I say this because it is the acknowledgement that you have a right to your intellectual property. That property is important. Now, I don't mean property like slavery, but property, and this was an argument that the South was using, of course, and it came up again during the constitutional debates over the 3/5 clause. But the Constitution recognizes that your labor is yours to profit by, and that no one has a right to profit off of my labor. Of course, slavery, is the exception because y'all were property and not covered under it at the time. But that's a whole different bill of goods, and we can get into it if you want. But the idea of the Constitution was that a man's labor was his own, and he could sell it if he wanted. And if his intellectual pursuits could be profitable, he was able to profit on those as well, like artists and lawyers, and doctors. They're using their brains, right? And that single thing, coupled with the fact that we were free to choose where we wanted to work and profit off of our labor, coupled with a capitalist economy, is why we have so many freedoms and wealthy people today, and why the rest of the world needs America to feed them.
Yeah.
And that we can.
And unfortunately, Jefferson didn't see it that way. Jefferson said, "You guys are playing with hellish fire. All right? It's good that a man comes up with his own idea. That's great and everything. But he should not have monopoly over his idea. And there should not be anything in the Constitution to speak to that. That intellectual property is one's own." Now, we hear, and especially as this applies to the arts and entertainment in urban America, since we love music so much, we hear about pass me a Tito. What we hear, that's right. What we hear is that there is always an infringement on the copyright, whether you're Bruno Mars or some other artist. You're infringing on rights like Marvin Gaye's music or Stevie Wonder's music. So there's nothing new under the sun. But what Thomas Jefferson was saying is, just because you made that song, it's not your song. It belongs to everybody. So if somebody else makes a good song on top of it, why should you profit?
Well, sort of saying that. He's saying, first off, that there should be a time limit to this stuff because, if you come up with a way of picking, like Eli Whitney's Cotton Gin, right?
Yeah.
If you come up with that, then why should only Eli someone else can do it too, or be creative or whatever to be able to do that too? But it shouldn't just be one person's. And, like life-saving medicines and stuff like that. This is what they did. On one hand, we're wanting to protect it. On the other hand, government becomes the chooser of winners and losers. And look at today with crony capitalism. This is what Jefferson was against, was crony capitalism, and he was afraid that would lead to it. And of course, he's right on that. It led to it. But on the other hand, we still should be able to profit off of our labor and our ideas to some extent, but not forever. And if you think about like music back then, like how many songs were sung in the bar rooms around there, and what places would rewrite the words to it. It was a catchy tune, but they would write local words to these songs. The meaning of the song and stuff. Did you owe royalties on it? These are the questions. And Jefferson and those guys were saying, this just gets way too complex for us to figure out, and government isn't designed to figure this stuff out.
Yeah.
So he had some good arguments, but the simple fact is we should have a right to our property, and whether it's intellectual or physical.
Yeah, and there was debate between Madison and Jefferson on this.
Of course, it has to be debated by others' rights in these too.
Exactly. So there was debate between Madison and Jefferson on this.
Yeah.
And Madison was like, dude, eternity. Jefferson was like, nah, man, 0. So they agreed to 14 years originally.
Yeah. And they were both well known for using the word dude.
They were.
The whole serpent craze came out of that.
It started with Jefferson.
Yeah. In fact, Jefferson he was one of the original Beach Boys.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. He rewrote a song.
I have a picture of him when I was a kid, and he was on a surfboard.
So, in a sense, originally the copyright under the original Constitution was 14 years. But today, the copyright laws protect the artist for his life plus an additional 50 years. And some people say that that's not long enough.
I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
I think that's too much.
Yeah. Why do you say it's too much?
Look at this. How many times have you sung the song "Happy Birthday" to somebody? Okay, you're stealing from those two little women, the sisters who wrote "Happy Birthday," and because it's still copyrighted. And so that's why, like when you go to Chili's or something, they sing "Happy Happy Birthday, Happy Happy Birthday, Happy Happy Birthday, Happy Happy Birthday," because it's not copyrighted. But singing "Happy Birthday" is. And so I mean, there's an extent. I think there's a reasonable use to copyrights, and I would be happy with like 10 years because, face it, if you're still relevant 10 years from now, power to you.
There you go.
But, most of us aren't. Most of the things we write aren't. And so 10 years is pretty sufficient. And I don't know. I don't know why we need to ever be longer than that, but there probably is an argument for it. So
for that person who's sitting at home tonight over in Detroit writing a song, should they not protect their intellectual property? Or
no, they should. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the rest of your question is. So you always protect your property if you can. Because there's, and the reason for this is you and I shouldn't have to protect our radio shows. But there are people out there that are willing to profit off of you and me and not share it with us.
Yeah.
And, and we put it out here free for people to learn. And it's not that we're noble, it's just that's our calling. We're teachers. But there are people that take our free teaching and then profit off it. And that, I think, is wrong without sharing with us.
Exactly.
At least without asking permission, High Plains Pundit Press, SHR Media, I've never felt the love back on financial terms, but they have my blessing to run my shows. Because we're friends and we talk and we made this agreement. But for someone to do it, like I have people all the time, Ken, telling me they listen to me on something like Patriot Radio or something. I think, what is that? I've never heard of them. They've never ever contacted me and said, hey, we're running your show and it's really good. You're getting a lot of audience. So I never get this stuff.
Yeah.
Not because I don't have a lot of audience, but
no,
the thing is, why do I keep finding our shows on places that they've never bothered to even ask us about?
And the other thing is, I've actually heard one of my Bible studies in a radio sermon by another pastor.
Well, that's why you always are saying that you're doing the prep work for them.
Exactly. It would, if you're going to do, I just want to be, listen, if you're going to do it, okay, because I know what you do with sheet music in churches. You go to the printer and copy that stuff off of everybody. And I know.
For everybody to know, that's not white sheets.
Or are you taking songs from the radio and you're taping them over and over again for people in your choir to sing and take home with them or whatever, and you're not paying any royalties for that. All right, and I know sermons are being copied. If you're going to do that kind of stuff, mix it up. You know what I'm saying? Don't go word for word. That's just silly. You're teaching people to do erroneously. We are not going to have enough time. We are not going to have enough time to do the other two that I wanted to do, private property and private capitalization. But in summary, the founding fathers were expecting us to be free people and to pursue freedom at all costs. The unfortunate thing is the leftists have screwed it all up by making African American slaves first in body and then in mind and spirit to the philosophies of socialism and communism. And if we don't break those, prosperity that we seek will never come. I want to go quickly to a biblical portion of this. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Let me say good night. My phone is like on 2%
Okay.
right here, so it's
All right.
Well, you can do your biblical thing uninterrupted by my big mouth.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, and God bless you, sir. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to do this very quickly for those who are following along at home. And I want to take you to Genesis chapter 47 because a lot of people don't understand that there is really nothing new under the sun. And especially in the area of manipulating the culture when given the opportunity. People will take dominion over you and make certain that your achievements are limited to their autonomous living. In this particular case, I want to take you very quickly to Genesis 47:13. Genesis 47:13. And in that particular scripture, it is noted, and it's amazing how we switch from a conversation between Pharaoh and Joseph about where he's going to hide his folk who are shepherds in the land of Egypt. And it seems that Joseph had already figured this out. We're going to put them in Goshen and hope nobody say nothing, because shepherds were considered the abomination of the agriculturalists and tradesmen known as Egyptians. But we instantly see where we get the idea that Rahm Emanuel stated, that a crisis presents the best opportunity for you to do stuff. And in this particular case, Joseph is going to use the crisis of the famine to impose totalitarianism in the land of Egypt. I know you've never heard this before, you never heard it this way. But the original communists happened to be Joseph. Well, let's take a look. Genesis 47:13 says, and there was no bread in all the land, for the famine was very sore. So the land of Egypt and all the land of Canaan fainted by reason of the famine. 47:14. And Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan for the corn which they bought. And Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. Okay, so we see right here in Genesis 47:15, Joseph manipulates the currency. Cash is king. And when your nation begins to play with the money and create its own fiat currencies, manipulating the currencies of many nations, you begin to see control being taken of the people. Where the money is, there is your treasure. Don't think Jesus wasn't just saying this stuff. He had some emphasis. Going on to Genesis 47:16. And Joseph said, give your cattle, and I will give you for your cattle if money fail. He said the security of our wealth will be your property. Get this now. The security of our wealth as a nation will be your property. Watch out, baby. When they start using your property to secure their debt as a nation, watch what happens. Genesis 47:17. And they brought their cattle unto Joseph. And Joseph gave them bread in exchange for horses, and for the flocks, and for the cattle of the herds, and for the asses. And he fed them with bread for all their cattle that year. All of a sudden, the property, the production by liquid exchange or currency exchange, or in this particular case, food exchange, became the property of the state. Ooh, what do we call that? I know you never heard it this way. I'm glad you're listening tonight. Genesis 47:18. When that year was ended, they came unto him the second year and said unto him, we will not hide it from my Lord. You are master. You're the Lord. How that our money is spent, meaning it has no value. My Lord also hath our herds of cattle. You own a cattle on 1,000 hill, Joseph. There is not aught left in the sight of my Lord but our bodies and our lands. Bodies and lands. Now, when the government takes your land, the only thing left is your what? Body. I'm going to type in big 2 words. And I want you to tell me if that does not sound like Genesis 47:18. Okay? Let's go on. Genesis 47:19. Wherefore shall we die before thine eyes, both we and our land? Buy us, buy us, buy us, and our land for bread. And we and our land will be servants unto Pharaoh. And give us seed that we may live and not die, that the land be not desolate. Our very provision comes from the state. Our very lives are dependent upon Pharaoh. Genesis 47:20. I know y'all never heard it said this way to y'all. All got all hooked up on that. Joseph is the preserver of the kingdom. Nah, he was a communist. He understood. I can give Pharaoh everything he ever wanted. Y'all gonna see in a few moments how that works when the church is involved. Stay tuned. Genesis 47:20. And Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh. All Waters world, Pharaoh world. It's all his. He wrecked the currency. He took their property. He took their prevailing way of wage and provision. In exchange for food, of course, knowing that food would exhaust itself. Any food should know this. Then they take the land. For the Egyptians sold every man his field, because the famine prevailed over them. So the land became Pharaoh's. 47:21. And as for the people, he removed them to cities from one end of the borders of Egypt even to the other end thereof. The mobility of the people now belonged to the king. You couldn't go nowhere unless the king said so. All right, there you go. Did y'all catch this? Am I the only one who sees Joseph is a true communist. Well before Lenin, Joseph, he figured this thing out. And don't think the liberals, leftists who's sitting in the pulpit with you or in the pew with you don't see this stuff. They see it and they know how it works. Genesis 47:22. Only the land of the priests bought he not, for the priests had a portion assigned them of Pharaoh, and did eat their portion which Pharaoh gave them. Wherefore they sold not their lands. Now, nothing befuddles a government like a church or a temple of priests. Okay? Because we want to say that God, the God, exists for all of us, and we must respect the sacredness of the church. Pay attention, folk. Genesis 47:23. Then Joseph said unto the people, behold, I have bought you this day, and your land for Pharaoh. Lo, here is seed for you, and ye shall sow the land. Ah, notice something. Who's going to get the increase? Who's going to get the portion when the government owns it all? Will it be the temple of priests? Who gets it? Genesis 47:24. And it shall come to pass in the increase that ye shall give the fifth part unto Pharaoh, and 4 parts shall be your own. We're going to give you a portion for seed of the field, and for your food, and for them of your households, and for food of your little ones. Who's not mentioned there? Oh, Lord, and Jesus, clutch the pearls. They're not going to give money. No, because it all belongs to Pharaoh. All right, Genesis 47:25. And they said, thou hast saved our lives. This Fidel, you saved our lives. You took everything from us and then you saved us. Thou hast saved our lives. Let us find grace in the sight of my Lord, and we will be Pharaoh's servants. And Joseph made it law over the land of Egypt unto this day that Pharaoh should have the 5th part, except the land of the priests only, which became not Pharaoh's. 47:27. And Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt, in the country of Goshen, and they had possessions therein, and grew and multiplied exceedingly. I want you to understand one thing in terms of except the land of the priests only. If all of the people belong to Pharaoh, and all the land belonged to Pharaoh, and all of the food belongs to Pharaoh, except for that little portion, and you must get permission from Pharaoh to move and to live, because he has authority over your very well-being, then what portion does your church get except the portion that the gov gives it? And then if the gov is giving your church a portion, who's running your church? It ain't pastor. It's the government. Ladies and gentlemen, I know no one's ever shown that to you before, because no one was ever bold enough to make it plain to you. But God didn't want the people of Egypt to be enslaved, and he certainly didn't want the people of Canaan, meaning the Hebrews, to be enslaved either. He wanted them to be free. The first slaves happened to do it by choice and then force. They were the Egyptians that became the slaves of Pharaoh. And then, if you read on, Joseph's people were only supposed to be there for the term of the famine. Once the famine ended, which was 14 years, they were supposed to get up and go. You know, the famine and recovery, 14 years, they were supposed to get up and go. They were illegal aliens that were allowed to be in a province on the border of Egypt. They were supposed to get their stuff and go. But what they choose to do is stay. And then they began to grow. And then that group that illegal immigrant group becomes a threat to the Egyptians. And you'll see that when you get to Exodus. There was a time when they knew not Joseph. And they wondered to themselves, how the heck did we let all these people up in our kingdom? They were already under authoritarian rule of Pharaoh. Pharaoh owned everything. It is when the Jews recognized, or the Hebrews recognized, that they had done themselves evil by staying in the land and submitting themselves to the authority of Egypt, that they recognized that they were made slaves. And it got worse, and it got worse, and it got worse. Ladies and gentlemen, before you leave here tonight, I want you to know two things. One, our national debt is about to exceed, our national debt is about to exceed $20 trillion. Currency, property, ownership, debt. Who owns you, baby? But I also want to let you know one other thing. God bless America. It's time for America to bless God. Good night. God bless. We will see you Sunday for an American Conservatives Exploration of the Inspired Word of God. Monday night for the Exceptional Conservative Show. God bless you. We will see you later.